I was almost killed in a car accident caused by my fiancé. He said he didn't hear me yell stop. Now, I'm being blamed for staying with him. Everyone calls me crazy for forgiving him. But what he did after might just save us. I used to think love could survive anything. But now I'm not sure. After a devastating accident caused by a split-second decision, I'm learning what pain, forgiveness, and healing really look like. I never thought a craving for something as simple as Taco Bell would be the moment that split my life into a clear before and after. It was a chilly Thursday evening, one of those nights when the cold sneaks under your clothes and settles deep in your bones. I was curled up on the couch in my favorite oversized hoodie, trying to shake off the exhaustion of another long day. My fiancé, James, had just finished helping his son with homework, and the house had finally grown quiet. That's when the craving hit. "Babe," I called out, playfully tugging on his sleeve. "I want tacos. Like, now. Spicy ones. And nachos. With that fake cheese sauce." James raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Is this a craving or a command?" I grinned. "A little of both." We bundled up, and his son, Eli, tagged along because, well, what 7-year-old would ever say no to a late-night taco run? James teased that it was his turn to be the cool dad, and honestly, that short drive should have been a forgettable moment in our everyday life. It should have been just another silly family outing. But it wasn't. The air in the car was lighthearted. James was humming to the radio, Eli was in the backseat bouncing in excitement about getting a Baja Blast. And I was scrolling through the mobile app trying to remember what ridiculous combination I had ordered last time that made me feel like a culinary genius. We got our food without any issue and started heading home. The scent of tacos and melted cheese thick in the car. We were only a few minutes from the house, and that's when it happened. We approached a busy intersection, one I had driven through 100 times before. The light was blinking yellow, not quite a green, not quite a red. A warning, a maybe, a be careful. I saw it. But more importantly, I saw the other car. Barreling toward the intersection. Fast. "James," I said, my voice sharper than usual. "Wait. Just wait for the green." He hesitated, barely. I don't know if he thought I was being paranoid, if he was just distracted, or if he genuinely didn't hear me. But he went. And in less than a second, the world exploded. There was a sound I can only describe as a scream made of metal. Our car spun. Everything went sideways, literally and emotionally. I remember Eli screaming. I remember seeing James throw his arm across my chest in a useless instinct to protect me. Then the crunch. The crash. The black. When I came to, I was pinned. Not metaphorically. My body was wedged between the seat and the center console, crushed in ways I couldn't yet understand. My chest felt like it had been split in half. My hips felt like shattered glass. Breathing was an act of war against my own ribs. James was shouting my name, his voice thick with panic. Eli was crying. People were yelling outside the car. Sirens. Always the sirens. I couldn't move. At the hospital, everything blurred together. The evidence of injury lay on the floor. There was white light. There were 1,000 questions and voices I couldn't place. I remember someone cutting off my clothes and someone else holding my hand and telling me to stay awake, to stay with them. They ran test after test, poked and prodded. A whirlwind of scans and x-rays revealed the true damage. I ended up with multiple injuries to my lower back and chest area. The pain was, and still is, overwhelming, in a way that's hard to describe. It's the kind of discomfort I wouldn't wish on anyone. My sternum was fractured, and a piece of me wanted to laugh at the irony of a broken heart bone. I guess it felt appropriate. I was in a hospital bed with tubes in my arms, painkillers dulling the edges of reality, and James pacing the room. The guilt in his eyes was enough to break me all over again. "It should have been me," he said, over and over. "It should have been me." And even through the pain, the part of me that still loved him tried to reach for him. Tried to reassure him. But another part of me, the part in survival mode, wanted to scream. "I told you to wait." The surgery was brutal. They inserted 2 long steel screws into my pelvis to hold me together, like Frankenstein's monster stitched up and sent back to the world. But the monster wasn't the hardware in my bones. It was the trauma clinging to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. I started having vivid flashbacks. I'd wake up gasping, heart pounding, sweat soaking through my sheets. I'd hear the crash again. Feel the impact. See Eli's face. feel the helplessness of being crushed inside my own body. And that was just the emotional pain. The physical pain was relentless. Nothing prepared me for the agony of simply existing in that broken body. The hospital gave me a back brace to help me stand and walk. It was way too big. Comically oversized, like someone handed me a safety device meant for a linebacker. We told the nurses. Multiple times. We told the physical therapist. They shrugged it off, told me it was standard and close enough. But it wasn't. I needed support. Instead, I got a hollow shell wrapped around me, loose and useless. And still, they insisted I stand. The first time they tried to get me to walk, I screamed. I couldn't help it. It was primal. Moving felt like someone was pulling my bones apart with meat hooks. My spine was on fire. My pelvis throbbed with every heartbeat. I told them I couldn't. They told me I had to. That brace was supposed to keep me steady. It did nothing. Each step was like torture. My legs shook. My arms gave out. I collapsed, sobbing in front of two strangers who didn't seem to understand that pain like this wasn't just physical. It was soul deep. All I remember from those days is pain, frustration, fear, and this overwhelming sense of helplessness. After about a week in the hospital, they moved me to a physical rehabilitation center. I remember lying in that sterile hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, barely able to breathe without pain. When they wheeled me into that rehab room, the weight of everything just hit me. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to bathe. I didn't want to talk. I didn't even want to exist. Every part of my body screamed in pain, but it was more than physical. It was emotional, mental, spiritual. I felt broken, not just in my bones but in my soul. Moving, even slightly, sent shocks of pain ricocheting through my spine and pelvis. So, I stopped trying. I cried just thinking about shifting in bed. I lay still and empty, avoiding the slightest movement. The staff tried to be encouraging, kind, even. But when you're stripped of your independence, your privacy, your dignity, no amount of kindness really lands. I had to depend on strangers to help me go to the bathroom, bathe me, brush my teeth, even feed me. I was 27. And I felt like I was 90 and dying. It was humiliating. Utterly, utterly humiliating. I'm not someone who leans on others easily. I've always been fiercely independent, the type who gets things done, who doesn't ask for help. I prided myself on that. And now, here I was, needing someone to wipe me. Every single day. I don't even remember how many times I broke down crying, not just because of the pain, but because of the helplessness. I eventually stopped crying. Not because I felt better, but because I was too numb to cry anymore. When I was finally discharged to go home, part of me thought maybe I'd feel some relief. But the truth is, I wasn't going home. I was just moving to a different prison, my own apartment, which had somehow transformed from a sanctuary into a cell. The four walls that used to feel safe now felt suffocating. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't even get off the couch without assistance. All I had was pain, silence, and the slow passage of time. The doctors and physical therapists were blunt. You have the second worst kind of break we ever see. You can't put weight on your right leg for at least 3 months. No bending, no twisting, no overexertion. Expect a full recovery to take a year, if not longer. A year. At first, I tried to tell myself, you'll bounce back. You're strong. You've been through worse. But the truth was, I wasn't okay. I wasn't even close to okay. Every time I looked at the crutches leaning against the wall or the wheelchair by the front door, I felt like I was looking at tombstones. And the worst part? I had been doing so well before the crash. I had finally been getting my life together. After years of struggling with focus, motivation, and burnout. I had been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder earlier that year. Things that used to feel impossible, getting out of bed on time, staying consistent with routines, making plans and sticking to them, had finally started to make sense. I was building structure. I was eating right, tracking my meals, doing CrossFit 3 times a week. I had friends. I was showing up for life. I had just re-enrolled in college. I was getting good grades. I had even been invited to a networking event on campus, something I normally would have avoided like the plague. But this time, I went. I was taking chances. Living. And now? It's all gone. The gym membership I was so proud of? Frozen. The semester I had looked forward to? Dropped. The momentum I had fought so hard to build? Obliterated. I can't work out. I can't socialize. I can't even leave the house unless it's for a doctor's appointment. I'm tired. Tired of waking up in pain. Tired of needing help to shower. Tired of the constant reminder that my life has been derailed by something that could have been prevented. Because I warned him. That's what I keep coming back to. That blinking yellow light. That gut feeling in the pit of my stomach. That voice inside me saying, wait. Just wait. And I said it out loud. I told him to wait. I saw the car coming fast and I said, don't go. Just wait for the green. And he went anyway. When I asked him later, while lying in the hospital bed, why he didn't stop, why he didn't listen, why he risked it, all he could say was, I don't know. I don't know. 3 words that have echoed in my head every day since the crash. 3 words that have cost me more than I ever thought I'd have to pay. Because I'm the one suffering. I'm the one who can't walk. I'm the one who has nightmares and panic attacks. I'm the one who feels trapped in a body that doesn't work anymore. Don't get me wrong. He's been there for me. He's helping. He's cooking, cleaning, driving me to appointments, staying up with me when the pain gets too much. He's doing everything he can. But there are moments when I look at him and feel nothing but rage. And guilt for feeling that rage. Because how do you stay angry at someone who didn't mean to hurt you? But how do you not stay angry when the person who was supposed to protect you is the reason you're suffering? There are days I wonder if our relationship will survive this. Not because he's walked away, but because part of me hasn't forgiven him. Part of me isn't sure if I ever can. I feel like I'm grieving a life that never got to fully bloom. A life I was just beginning to build, only to have it ripped away in an instant. There was so much I wanted to do this year. And now I just stare at the calendar, wondering when I'll feel normal again. So yeah, I guess I just needed to get this out. I feel trapped. Trapped in my body. Trapped in my mind. Trapped in this version of my life that I never asked for. Everyone keeps telling me it'll get better. That healing takes time. That this is just a season. But right now, it feels like the longest season of my life. And the only thing I want, really, truly want, is to get my life back. To go for a walk. To laugh without wincing. To do the dishes without needing a chair. To feel like myself again. I know I'll get there. I have to believe that. But right now, it just really, really hurts. For my fiancé. What's going on with him? I ask myself this almost every day. You'd think the accident wrecked only my body, but it's slowly been tearing him apart too, just in different ways. I remember the first time I saw real, soul-deep panic in his eyes. It was right after the crash, when the paramedics were pulling me from the crumpled wreckage. I was fading in and out of consciousness, but even through the haze of morphine and trauma, I remember the way he kept repeating, I'm sorry, please don't close your eyes. His voice cracked. I think it was the first time I ever saw him cry. But now, that panic is etched into his every movement. He's been nothing short of devastated. Racked with guilt. Haunted. He's apologized more times than I can count, at the crash site while they loaded me into the ambulance. At the hospital when I was still too doped up to form a sentence, during the weeks of rehab when my body felt like a pile of broken furniture, and every day since I came home. I should have listened, he whispered once while holding my hand, eyes red-rimmed. I should have just waited. I don't know why I went. That's the thing. He doesn't know why he didn't wait. And that's what eats at him. But lately, it's been more than guilt. Something's changed in him. Like a light dimmed and hasn't come back on. I started noticing signs he wasn't okay, really wasn't okay, about 2 weeks after I was discharged from rehab. He called me one afternoon, completely frantic. His voice was shaky, uneven, and I could hear drawers slamming in the background. Babe, he panted, I can't find my truck keys. I need to see you. I need to come over, I need to make sure you're okay. I told him I was fine. Calm. Lying on the adjustable hospital-style bed he'd insisted we get for the house. I told him to breathe, that I was literally texting him 10 minutes earlier. But he wouldn't stop. I need to see you. I need to know you're breathing. It got to the point where my mom had to drive over to his place and help calm him down. He later admitted he'd been having panic attacks. Real ones. Shortness of breath, chest tightness, the whole deal. He said he'd never experienced anything like that before in his life. I believed him. Because before the crash, he was this grounded, unshakable kind of man. A doer. He grew up in a working-class family, the oldest of 4, and he'd always been the one holding everyone together. College was out of reach financially, so he went into trade work right after high school and started building his carpentry business from scratch. His motto had always been, handle it now, cry later. And honestly, he rarely even cried. But now, it's like the accident cracked something open in him. And all this emotion, this fear, guilt, and helplessness, has nowhere to go. Yet even through his breakdown, he's been showing up for me. Every single day. When I was still in the hospital and struggling with the oversized back brace they gave me, you know, the one that practically swallowed me whole, he was the one who kept speaking up for me. This brace is too big, he'd tell the nurses. She's drowning in it. It's messing up her posture. And they'd nod, maybe scribble something down, and then nothing would happen. He brought it up again in rehab. My mom brought it up. Even one of the physical therapists said, yeah, this size doesn't make sense. Still, no change. It wasn't until I'd been home a week, frustrated, stiff, and done, that I finally called the hospital myself and used my full-on Karen voice. Hi, yes, I'd like to know why I was given a brace 3 sizes too big. Why nobody listened when multiple people flagged it. And why I'm expected to recover while lugging around something that fits like a child wearing their dad's winter coat. Eventually, they got the message. Turns out, the brace only comes in 2 sizes. SM and L/XL. Take a wild guess which one they gave me. Yep. L/XL. I'm 5'4", barely pushing 130 pounds. It was a joke. But my fiancé never gave up. He kept pushing alongside me. He knew I didn't have the energy to fight every battle, so he started picking them up himself. He took on the insurance nightmare, too. I'd open my laptop and get overwhelmed just looking at the forms. All the documentation. The calls. The adjusters who wanted me to relive the crash 100 different ways. He stepped in. He made spreadsheets. He called reps. He gathered documents. He sat next to me while I dictated answers for the claim. He even found a lawyer through one of his old clients and got me a consultation. From what we know so far, the settlement might hit around $100,000. And while that money won't undo the damage or return the year of my life I've lost to pain and PT, it will help cover the surgeries, the months of rehab, and the pile of bills that don't seem to stop coming. But honestly, the money's not what sticks out. It's everything else. He's been cooking for me, actual meals, not just frozen pizza. He started Googling anti-inflammatory diets and made a giant grocery list with turmeric, ginger, leafy greens. I made fun of him for it once, and he grinned. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying. You deserve more than box mac and cheese. He's cleaned, washed sheets, vacuumed, done laundry. He even made a little station beside the bed with snacks, water, pain meds, my phone charger, and tissues, because he knew I cried most mornings. He's been doing all of this while quietly putting his own life on pause. Before the crash, he was expanding his carpentry business. Things were picking up. He had new contracts lined up. Was about to hire a second full-time guy, maybe even upgrade his workspace. He talked about opening a storefront one day, his own custom wood shop, where he could take on bigger commissions and teach classes. That dream? On hold. He looked me in the eyes the other night, after making me tea and helping me elevate my leg, and said, I'm going to put the business stuff on hold. You come first. I don't want to miss a moment of your healing. I didn't know what to say. My throat closed up. I wanted to tell him not to do that, not to sacrifice everything for me. But I also knew, deep down, I wouldn't have gotten this far without him. He's been the one steady hand in a life that suddenly feels like it's been tossed into a hurricane. And yet, sometimes I worry. Because while I've been learning to walk again, he's been silently carrying both of us. And that weight? It's heavy. He pretends he's fine. Smiles. Jokes. Tells my mom not to worry. But I see him when he thinks I'm asleep. Sitting at the kitchen table, hunched over his phone, head in his hands. I hear him when he cries in the shower, barely audible, like he doesn't want me to know. And I feel the tension in him when he lays next to me, carefully, barely letting the bed dip, Like he's afraid he might break me again. We haven't had a real fight since the accident, but that's not always a good thing. I think we're both terrified that if we do argue, it might crack something that can't be put back together. But sometimes silence is its own kind of pain. We don't talk much about before the accident anymore. It's like there's this invisible wall between who we were and who we are now. Like we're grieving our past selves in real time, and neither of us knows how to bring it up without falling apart. There's a part of me that wants to scream at him. Why didn't you just stop? Why didn't you wait? Why did you push through that yellow light when I said don't? But I know he's already screaming those questions at himself 100 times a day. So instead, I just take his hand and squeeze it. We sit in the quiet. Sometimes he hums. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes we just exist. And maybe, for now, that's enough. Because even though he made a mistake, one that changed everything, he's never once walked away from the consequences. He's chosen, again and again, to stay, to help, to love me through the worst pain of my life. And I'll never forget that. Not when I stand again. Not when I walk again. Not when I finally go back to being me. With this said, some people have advised me to leave him. Others, a bit more extreme, have suggested I should sue him. Words like arrogant and reckless have been thrown around like darts aimed at someone they don't even truly know. And you know what? I get it. I understand where they're coming from. From the outside, it probably seems like he messed up royally and now I'm the one paying the price, both physically and emotionally. But when I zoom in, really zoom in on the context, the history, the pain, and the growth, what I see is not a monster, but a man who made a devastating mistake. A mistake that could have happened to anyone on any given day. A mistake born not out of malice or disregard, but from a simple lapse in judgment. A terrible, costly mistake. Absolutely. But a human one, nonetheless. I won't lie. I'm still angry. I'm angry that it happened to me. That this is now my body, my life, and my timeline that has been altered because of a decision he made in a split second. And that anger doesn't disappear just because he's sorry. It festers. It simmers. Sometimes it explodes in quiet ways, a look, a pause, an icy silence when the pain is too loud. But that anger? It's mine. And I know now that it's something I have to work through myself. There's a moment that keeps replaying in my head, a conversation that happened a week after the accident. I had just been wheeled back into my hospital room from physical therapy, sore and silent, and I finally looked him in the eye and asked, "Why didn't you stop when I told you to?" His eyes darted away. "I don't know." That answer gutted me. I remember staring at him, my face half numb from pain meds but my heart searing with confusion and disappointment. He looked like he wanted to shrink into himself, and for a moment, I wondered if I'd ever feel safe with him again. But today, something shifted. It had been a rough morning, my back was aching from trying to sleep in a position that didn't make me want to scream, and I was feeling brave. So I asked him again, this time in our apartment while he was making oatmeal for us. "Why didn't you stop when I told you to?" He froze, spoon halfway between the pot and the bowl. "I thought I had time," he finally said, turning to me slowly. "I thought the gap was wide enough. I misjudged it. And I swear, I didn't hear you say stop until it was already too late. By the time I registered it, we were all ready." He trailed off. The rest didn't need to be said. I bit my lip. "But I said it earlier. I know I did." "Then I missed it," he said. "I messed up. I should have been more careful. I keep playing it over in my head, how stupid I was to try to make that light. And now, every time I approach a yellow light, I freeze. My hands start sweating. My foot hovers over the brake and I remember what happened." There was something deeply raw in his voice, a weight that hadn't been there before. I saw him, not just as the man who hurt me, but as someone who was hurting too. And still, I didn't let him off the hook. I told him how it felt. How that moment shifted everything. How betrayed I felt that he didn't hear me. He didn't get defensive. He just sat next to me on the couch, put his hand lightly over mine, and whispered, "I know. And I hate myself for it." There was silence after that, thick and heavy, but it wasn't angry. It was grieving. We're not perfect. Not even close. And honestly, we probably have a long road ahead of us before things feel normal again. If they ever do. But I see him trying. Really trying. He's attending every appointment with me that he can, helping me navigate this exhausting maze of insurance claims, medical paperwork, physical therapy schedules, and unpredictable pain flare-ups. He's doing the work not just as my partner, but as someone who deeply regrets what he did. And I don't think that should be ignored. He even insisted on pushing our mattress off the bed frame and bought me a brand new adjustable base, one of those hospital-style frames that lift and lower with a remote. He spent over $300 just to help me sit up without crying out. He set it up himself, folded all my extra pillows around me like a cocoon, and kissed my forehead like I was the most precious thing in the world. "You don't need to move a muscle unless you want to," he told me. "I just want you to heal. That's all I care about." Even his side business, which he had been working hard on for months, pouring his nights and weekends into, he told me he's putting it on pause. Not because I asked, but because he wants to be present. For me. For my healing. Some friends say I'm being manipulated. Others think I'm settling. But what they don't see are the sleepless nights we've spent talking about fear, about guilt, about who we were before the crash and who we're becoming now. They don't see the way he flinches when he hears the word accident, or how his hands tremble sometimes when he drives. They don't know that he's cried too. Update. I've resumed individual therapy. It was monthly before, something I did to manage the usual stress and anxiety of life. But now? It's weekly. And necessary. Yesterday was my first session since the accident, and I finally allowed myself to cry without apologizing for it. To be mad without trying to justify it. To grieve for the life I had before without feeling guilty for mourning what I lost. And yes, my fiancé and I are starting couples counseling. Because we want to move forward, together. It doesn't mean we have all the answers. It just means we're willing to fight for this. For us. I know that a lot of the people reaching out are coming from a place of concern and love. I truly do. I see you. I appreciate you. But I also need to say this, I'm a real person going through a very real, very painful chapter in my life. When I share my story, it isn't an invitation for judgment. It isn't a cue to dissect my decisions or offer ultimatums about what you would do in my shoes. Because you're not in my shoes, you didn't see the look on his face when he realized what happened. You didn't feel his hand grip mine in the ambulance. You weren't there when he showed up at the hospital the next morning with tears in his eyes and breakfast in his hands because he remembered I hate hospital eggs. You didn't see the way he advocated for me when no one else would. Or the way he rushed over when I cried about the brace that didn't fit, ready to raise hell if needed. It's okay to disagree with how I'm handling this. Truly. But please, please remember, I'm living this story day by day. I wake up with pain. I fall asleep with flashbacks. I move slowly, physically and emotionally, through recovery. And the man you think I should leave? He's the one holding my hand through it all. Healing, both physical and emotional, isn't linear, and I'm doing the best I can.